What are your ahas? Give us a gut check on those ahas from this summit.
Well, first of all, I'd like to really congratulate all of the board members who are in this room, because they are the most resilient board members in corporate America who have made it through the onslaught of 4 days of NACD summit.
And they're still here.
So your companies are already at an advantage because you've not just survived, but you're thriving. Two reflections, Kimberly. First of all, we are not living through a period of uncertainty, because that would imply that it's going to end. I think uncertainty is now the new norm of our changing world order. Uncertainty is the only certainty looking forward. So today it's COVID, tomorrow the next pandemic. Today it's the Russia-Ukraine war, tomorrow it could be China-Taiwan. Today it's the war for talent. A couple of years ago we had 23 million layoffs, and in a few months we have the recession coming on, and that could change things once again. So I think as we reflect, we need to look at all of the painful lessons of all of this disruption that we've faced over the past few years and turn that into effective action in order to reimagine and rebuild our companies to have the resilience to thrive in uncertainty on an ongoing basis. So I think that's the first point. The second is sort of a part of that is for many companies, this reimagination and rebuilding is going to involve digital transformation. And there have been a number of sessions on the topic, and the good news in demystifying it is that it's not about what technology you decide to use, regardless of whether it's artificial intelligence or blockchain or quantum computing or metaverse. Yeah, I already see sighs of relief from board members that typically shut off when they hear those words. It's not about that. It's also not about what your CISO or CTO or CIO is just doing. It's really about how can you leverage emerging technologies to reimagine your core strategy and business model to thrive in the future. Now, all of us are comfortable engaging with that, right?
And then they went on to say, well, every company is really a digital company, and digital is a hard talent to find. So, Abhi, let me turn to you, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about the boards you're on and digital transformation, what this group should be, again, taking back as they think about post-summit.
Well, we've had a bunch of amazing sessions over the past 4 days on the topic of digital transformation, artificial intelligence, metaverse, and so on. So I'm going to skip the shock and awe, because I think you've already had that, and boil it down to 6 key takeaways or questions that you can go back to your boardrooms with and engage with your board and engage with your management teams on from a digital transformation perspective. So number one is, how do we envision our core strategy and business model changing? And how do we evolve our digital strategy to support that? So I'll give you an example. I serve on the board of the largest US provider of appraisal management solutions. Every time there is a real estate transaction that triggers a valuation, which is typically handled by trained licensed professionals for years and years and years, that's how it's been operating. Now, the disruptive innovation the company is bringing to the marketplace is called digital appraisal, leveraging artificial intelligence and 3D scanning, where we are able to significantly enhance the speed and quality for the customer while driving more value for the company. So that's number one. Number two is, how are we going to drive this change? Who is going to lead this effort? And this is a critical question. And no, the answer is not your CTO or CIO or CISO. It has to be a cross-functional, cross-enterprise C-suite team, given the first point we talked about, that this is about core business strategy. Then the third question is, do we have the right people in the room? And I'm not just talking about the boardroom, but the executive leadership team and the broader talent pool. And do we have the right culture to really be successful. Some of the sessions talked about how by next year, $6.8 trillion will be spent on digital transformation, while close to 90% of those transformations don't actually achieve their outcomes or objectives. So we have to take a hard look in the mirror, and that may involve, doing some realigning of the structure or composition, whether it is the board by bringing in someone with digital transformation expertise, depending on the size and scope of the transformation, perhaps forming a standing committee. Also looking at sort of the executive team and making sure that the structure and composition is realigned as appropriate. But that is sort of the third important question. Then the fourth question is, are we going to build or buy? This is an important one to grapple with. I'll give you another example. I serve on the board of the largest global provider of financial crime solutions. So anti-money laundering solutions for banks, fintechs, right? And after a lot of thoughtful consideration, we decided that we are going to go the path of buy. And so of the 5 acquisitions we made over the past 2 years, majority of them were tied to software products related to AI and analytics for the digital transformation. And this is a company with a multi-billion enterprise value, but even at that size, it is on track to triple in revenues by next year over the past 3 years. And it has had 12 quarters of quarter-on-quarter highly profitable growth. So, I just don't want us to think about digital transformation from a risk mitigation standpoint. It's also about being proactive and capitalizing on the opportunity, given a lot of dynamics change to winner take all, when it comes to digital. So that's the fourth question, are we going to build or buy? Fifth question is then really, how are we going to pay for it? There has to be debate and discussion on this in terms of, is it just a matter of capital allocation? Is it a matter of cost rationalization? Is it a matter of rationalizing some of your costs? How are you really going to appropriately invest? And then finally, how are we going to measure success? Number 6, right? So what are the key metrics that the board is going to receive reporting on? And then is there an iterative process so that you are seeing what is working and what is not on a periodic basis, and then able to fine-tune the investments as you go? What's most important on this point is ensuring forward-looking visibility in the metrics and how you measure success, and not just in the rearview mirror. So those are the 6 points, I would say, in terms of key takeaways or questions to meaningfully engage with your board.
Great. All right, let's get to the good stuff, the future of the American board. Everybody knows that report comes out. Abhi, go.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So the 2 things that struck me from the report are culture and relationships. And I know this sounds so fundamental, but yesterday, Daniel elocuted it so passionately, that how critical it is to have a transparent and open culture in the boardroom that's going to foster a high degree of trust. And if we are going to be continuing to live in an uncertain, more volatile, complex world, and our jobs are not going to get any easier, and on top of that, if you're going to talk about offboarding conversations with directors who've served for a long period of time, we do need that open, honest, and transparent culture in the boardroom. So I think the culture piece in the report is mission critical. And then, of course, relationships, because that's what really drives the trust and the culture. So I think they're kind of interlinked. I agree. I think we're going to continue to talk about the theme of uncertainty, whether by next year it's emanating from the recession or the talent paradigm or Russia, Ukraine having resolved, but perhaps China, Taiwan. So that topic is going to continue. But what gives me hope is that the leaders in this room are going to be governing and guiding corporate America to thrive in that uncertainty. So I leave you with Charles Darwin said it best. It's not the most strongest species that survives, nor is it the most intelligent species that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change.